your Bible says, shall know my name is Yahweh. I am your Elohim. Take your
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Your Arms to Israel Video Club. We're so glad you're here and able to join us this week. You, your family, your loved ones who've been waiting for you. Come on into our Broward County studio here in beautiful Fort Lauderdale, Florida, home of Your Arms to Israel Video Ministries. Before we go right into today's Shabbat service, I want to share with you a couple of things from the Word of Yahweh. In Yechezkel Church, what else is there to share? And that's the core of what we do here at Your Arms to Israel. Ezekiel 37, and we see here in verse number 15 of Yechezkel 37, the word of Yahweh came to me saying, Moreover, Ben Adam, take one piece of wood and write upon it for Yehudah and the children of Israel his friends. Take another piece of wood and write upon it for Yosef, the piece of wood of Ephraim, and for all big Israel his friends. And join them one to another into one piece of wood, and they shall be echad. See, now listen, they shall be echad in your hand. See, that's why we do what we do here in the Your Arms to Israel Shabbat Video Club, to teach you how to take the stick of Yosef and the stick of Yehudah and to bring them together and make them one in your hand. Now, when you obey Yahweh's word, and when you obey Yahweh's voice, and your calling and ministry is lined up to do what He's called you to do, as we do here in the Miami Beach Israel Revival, watch what happens. In verse 18 of Yechezkel, Ezekiel 37, when the children of your people, your children, your neighbors, and the children of Israel scattered abroad, who are today Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, and the fullness of the Gentiles in all the nations, when they come to you, and they're going to all come with more or less the same question. When the children of your people speak to you, saying, Will you not show us what you mean by these? What are these two sticks, two houses? You see behind me the two houses of Israel, those two sticks and the Star of David. What is all this two-house shtick? I had one rabbi say to me, what's this two-house shtick all about? Trying to be a little bit humorous, calling it the two sticks instead of the two sticks. So when you take the two in your hand, meaning in your heart, in your doctrine, in your life, in your understanding, in your outlook, in your vision, when you live the truth of the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, that it is the marriage, the scattering, and the regathering of both houses and the restoration of both houses of Israel, people will ask you, what is these two sticks here in your hand? And when, not if, but when they ask you, you shall speak to them and show them and say, verse 19 of Ezekiel 37, this says the Master Yahweh, see, I will take the piece of wood of Yosef in the hand of Ephraim and the tribes of Israel, his companions of the 10 tribes of the north, and put them with the one piece of wood of Yehudah, and make these two pieces into one piece of wood, and they will be one in my hand. But notice the chronology. First, Yahweh waits for us to understand Him. Then, when we send the call to the nations, ultimately, how He brings both houses fully together with Yeshua as King and Torah as our Constitution, and how He gets all these hundreds of millions of born-again, returning Israelites back to the Promised Land, that's His business. Your business is to first make sure you take these two sticks and make them one in your hands. And that's why you have subscribed to the Your Arms to Israel Shabbat Video Club. Every week we'll come into your home or your place of business, whatever, and it better not be on a Shabbat if you know what I mean, and we will teach you how to make these two sticks one in your hand, so that when you go to the children of your people, they'll want to know more about Yahweh's plan, and Yahweh says, you share the plan, but ultimately, I'll be the one making these two sticks one in my hand. So right now, let's go right into the Miami Beach Israel Revival, into today's exciting service for a little praise, and right after that, grab your scriptures, grab your Restoration Scriptures, True Name Edition, and let's go right into today's Shabbat service at the Miami Beach Israel Revival. Shalom.
You should know my name is Yahweh. All doubt in your mind will see.
You ever think about how you plant a seed? I use an avocado for an example. You put an avocado seed in the ground, and with water and whatever minerals are in there, it grows a tree. It makes a fruit that's full of oil. How does he do that? How does he do anything? He does something. With a word. Hallelujah. 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 The purple sky to close the day. I wade the surf where dolphins play. The taste of salt, the dance of waves, and my soul wells up with hallelujah. A lightning flash, my pounding heart, a breaching whale, a shooting star, give testimony that you are, and my soul wells up with hallelujah. Oh, praise him, all his mighty works. There is no language where you can't be heard. Your song rings out through all the earth. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, cratered moon and sparrow's wings, a thunder's boom and Saturn's rings, unveil our Father as you sing, and my soul wells up with hallelujah. Oh, praise him, all his mighty works. There is no language where you can't be heard. Your song goes out to all the earth. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Give him praise, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah to the King of Israel.
The pulse of life within my wrist, a fallen snow, a rising mist. There is no higher praise than this, and my soul wells up. Oh, my soul wells up. My soul wells up with hallelujahs. Oh, praise him, all his mighty works. That means you too. There is no language where you can be heard. Your song rings out through all the earth. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah.
It's not going to be that good a message today, so
It's always good.
I'll do my best. Vayikra, chapter 25, verse number 1. I'll be preaching for a few hours. A message entitled, Still Sinful After All These Years. Still Sinful, no relation to the Paul Simon song. Remember? Still crazy after all these years. Still sinful after all these years. Before I get to today's message, I wanted to read something to you that I came across on the internet that I found very interesting. How many know we're in the days of the counting of the Omer, right? Between Bikurim and Shavuot, right? Listen to this and see, you ladies, especially you ladies, more so than the men. See if you can relate to this. The Ramban, not the Rambam, but the Ramban, one of our great sages, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, not Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, but Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, accentuates the point of the counting of the Omer. And this has nothing to do with the message, but I thought you'd find this interesting. When he contrasts the counting of the Sefirat HaOmer with another act of counting, that of a Zavah. A Zavah is a woman who is in Nidah. How many folks know what Nidah is? Menstruation. Guys, just look smart, all right? Pretend like you know what I'm talking about. All right? So Nidah is a woman who's in menstruation, who's ceremoniously unclean. So a woman who is in Nidah is called a Zavah. Zavah. A Zavah needs to keep track of her count and be aware of her count. But the Sefirat HaOmer demands a verbalization nightly, counting the time each evening, utilizing a precise formula. These facts seem to imply that the Sefirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, possesses significance. So the rabbis or our sages liken the counting of the Omer to a woman who's counting the 7 days, amen?
Amen.
Without bleeding before she can purify herself. So in other words, for 7 days, a woman who is Zavah is unclean, right? For 7 days. Then for another 7 days, she counts until the time she can take her mikvah. Okay, what is mikvah? Her water immersion. For a total of how many days a month? 14 days a month. 7 days when she is Neda, unclean. Another 7 days to make sure that her sickness has passed from her. And then after the woman counts 7 days, she can go into the mikvah and take a mikvah before Yahweh to be outwardly pure for a total of 14 days. So the sages teach us that it's personal, that the counting of the Sefirat HaOmer is not something for the rabbi or for the priest or for the leader, but it is for every Israelite, just like a woman personalizes her counting of menstruation every month. I find that interesting. I mean, that's not a major thing here, but it's interesting that the Sefirat HaOmer is supposed to be personal. Okay? Some of you ladies need to also learn when you are a Zavah, how to also begin to count. Okay, 7 days, you have your Neda, your menstruation, but then you count 7 days, and then you go into the mikvah every month, and you really should do that. Could be a pool, could be a lake, whatever it is, a total of 14 days. The point is you need to keep track of it, right? Right? The point is you don't ask, some guy at work to keep track for you, right? Hey, can you please keep track of my menstruation? No, it's something that you do yourself, right? That's the way you're supposed to count the Omer. You're not supposed to rely on the rest of the people of Israel. You're supposed to personalize it as well. Just thought I'd share that with you. Let's get back to the message. Again, this message, still sinful after all these years. Still sinful after all these years. Yahweh spoke to Moshe on Har Sinai, Vayikra 25:1. Yahweh spoke to Moshe on Har Sinai, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, say to them, when you come into the land that I give you, then shall the land keep a Shabbat to Yahweh." Notice, the land shall keep a Shabbat to Yahweh. The time of the Shabbat of the land is not for man. Yahweh said, the weekly Shabbat is for man. The land Shabbat, notice, in the land is or a Shabbat to Yahweh.
Amen.
The Shabbat was not, man was not made for the Shabbat, the weekly Shabbat. The weekly Shabbat was made for man. But the land Shabbat, turn to your neighbor and say, land Shabbat. Let's try it again. Land Shabbat. Shabbat Ketera. The land Shabbat was made for Yahweh.
Amen.
The weekly Shabbat was made for you and your mishpacha. The land Shabbat was made only for Yahweh. Verse 3. 6 years shall you sow your field, and 6 years shall you prune your vineyard, and gather in the fruit of your vineyard. For 6 years you shall reap. But in the seventh, read this now, listen, 7th year shall be a Shabbaton, to and for the land and for Yahweh, the land being Beulah, and it's Beulah, or as they say on TBN, Beulah land. You give up. It's not Beulah land from Nashville, honey. It is Eretz Beulah, or the land that is married to the bridegroom, Yahweh, where his bride lives. That's us. We were from there, we will return from there. Thus thou art, and thus thou shalt return. From Israel we were exiled, to Israel we shall return. But in the 7th year shall be a Shabbaton to the land. A Shabbat, here it is again, verse 4. A Shabbat for who? For Yahweh. Whose Shabbat is today? Man was not made for the Shabbat. The Shabbat was made for Adam. The weekly Shabbat is for you. The land Shabbat is for Yahweh. Are you getting this?
Yes.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh. That which grows of its own accord of your harvest you shall not reap, neither gather the grapes of your undressed vine, whether it grows on its own or with your help. It shall not be reaped in the 7th year. It is the year of Shabbaton to the land. Verse 6. And the Shabbat produce of the land shall be grain for you, for your Eved, for your female Eved, and your hired Eved, for your ger that sojourns with you. For your cattle, your beasts that are in your land, shall all the increase of it be for food. Okay, so will the land produce food and produce in the 7th year? Yes, it will. You cannot work and sow the land in the 7th year, right? But you can what? It will produce automatically for you. Is this making sense? The land will produce automatically for you, but you can't work it. In Hebrew, the term for the 7th year Shabbat, or the land Shabbat, is the Hebrew term Shemitah. Write it down. Shemitah. Shemitah. This is Yahweh's Shabbat, not man's Shabbat. And we call it in English today the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year. But in Hebrew we call it what? Shemitah. But it's a sabbatical year. Rest is the pattern that Yahweh has given us. Resting from working the land in order to trust His word and to rest in His word. We learned in the Torah that if we do not rest, what happens if we do not rest? We become anxious, we become diseased, and illness can come upon us. Amen? Think about what happened if we didn't rest one day a week. We would become diseased, anxious, and ill, wouldn't we? The only reason we're not sicker than we are is because Yahweh in His chesed and in His chokhmah has given us a Shabbat to slow us down. Slow down, you work too hard. Slow down, you move too fast. I got to take you out of Mass, kick it back. Take us out of Mass and bring us to Shabbat. So Yahweh slows us down because, to be frank with you, we are too pompous and too arrogant to think that we need to slow down and rest. So Yahweh commands us to rest. In the book of Hebrews, we are not to trust in our flesh, it tells us, or our sinful nature. We are to conform our nature what? To Yahweh's nature, and to enter into His rest. Didn't that say in the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verses 1 through 13? Now therefore there remaineth a what? Rest to the people of Yahweh. Harden not your heart as your forefathers in the day of provocation in the wilderness. And therefore you are to not harden your heart, because otherwise you will not enter what? The Shabbat, right? Wrong. It doesn't say that. It says, if you harden your heart like your forefathers in the wilderness, you will not enter his rest.
Wait a minute, do that again?
What did we just say Yahweh's rest was? The seventh day? No. The Shabbat was made for man, not man for the Shabbat.
Exactly.
The Shemitah was made for Yahweh, not for man. When you rest in the land, and you do not work your farm, and sow your farm, and labor in your vineyard, in your business, in your real estate, in your career, but you take your sabbatical, I'll go further than that, whether you're in the land or out of the land. Even if you're out of the land, you ought to be taking Shemitah. You ought to cease and desist from your business and from your normal for a full year. Yahweh's going to give you a full year vacation. I can't do that, Rabbi. I know. That's why many of us are financially cursed, and that's why we don't build orphanages, and that's why we don't have recovery programs, and that's why we don't have teen ministry. That's why. Because we cannot trust Yahweh with our business. We cannot trust Yahweh with our ministry. We cannot trust Yahweh with our day-to-day things, because if I don't show up, everything will fall apart. That's your attitude.
Oh, thank you, Father.
If I don't show up, my family will starve.
Wow. We're so sorry.
If I don't show up and I actually obey and observe Shemitah, my wife will divorce me. My husband will walk out on me. My business will collapse. The phone company will shut off the phone. Now, listen, darling. You're still working during Yahweh's Shabbat. You're defiling Yahweh's Shabbat. And then you wonder why things are not working. And you're wondering why you're broke. You're saying, I'm keeping my Shabbat, but you're not keeping his Shabbat. The Shabbat was made for man. The Shemitah was made for Yahweh. Pastors in churches want to know why they burn out. Where's the pastor? Oh, he's in Bermuda. Bermuda? On the beach? What happened? Well, brother, pastoral burnout. Pastor's burned out. Well, has he taken his Shemitah? Say what? We don't cook that stuff. He takes his Bayer, he takes his ibuprofen. Did he take Shemitah? No, we don't eat that. So where do you get that? It's not something you get, it's something you do. Well, he didn't take Shemitah, meaning he hasn't had a year off, has he? He always says you come back to the pulpit on the 8th year. No wonder he's burned out. And no wonder the people are dry. And no wonder the pastor can't preach and the people can't receive anything. Because after all, he's on salary from the board. And if he takes the time off, the board will fire him and find another pastor and burn him out too, and he won't take Shemitah.
It's getting deep in here. Come on now.
How come the teachers union can get a hold of this?
Uh-oh.
How come Albert Shanker of the New York City Teachers Union got a hold of this, and the teachers in New York City get a sabbatical? Did you know that? Unless something's changed. May have changed, I don't know. There are some unions that give off their employees a sabbatical. Did you know that? So they get better employees. And the employees aren't burned out. Brothers and sisters, we're still sinful after all these years. Most of what I'm sharing with you today will never be applied. Most of you will go one ear, right out the other. You'll never do it. Because it's too challenging. And you'll come up with an excuse saying, well, we're not in Israel. This only applies if we're in Israel. Yeah, but if Yahweh, that means the Shabbat only applies if we're in Israel. Go to work on Saturday. You're not in Israel, might as well go to work. How many would go to work on Saturday? No. Well, why wouldn't you do the Yahweh Shabbat? This is your Shabbat. Yahweh rested on the 7th day and bequeathed it to man. This is your inheritance. Are you getting this? I'm trying to answer the question that I brought up earlier. We are to conform our nature to Yahweh's nature. In the book of Ivrim, go there. Just go there. I don't care about time. I just go there.
We killed the clock
Just go
2
there.
years ago.
Amen. Ivrim, capítulo 4. Ivrim. Did I get that right?
See,
Okay. Sometimes I mess it up with boxing. Like primer round.
see.
Okay. Ivrim, chapter 4, verse. Let's see. Ivrim 4. Let's see if the Brit Hadashah has the Shemitah. What is Shemitah? The 7th year sabbatical. Let us therefore fear, verse 1, while the promise of entering into the Shabbat remains. Is that what it says? What did the author of Hebrews have in mind? Was he writing to Kim Jong-il, or was he writing to Hebrews?
Hebrews.
So what, according to Vayikra 25, is Yahweh's rest? And how does Yahweh's rest differ from man's rest? Hello? Yahweh's rest is the what? The Shemitah. So the book of Hebrews says, are you Ephraim and Yehudah reborn, regathered, and restored? Very good. Therefore let us fear not to enter his rest, while the promise of entering his rest remains, lest any of us should come short of his rest. For to us was the Besorah proclaimed, as well as to them, but the word proclaimed did not profit.